My name's Andy Fry. I'm here at the Digital Content Forum, and I'm here with Ben Kerr from Cold Glass Productions, which is a relatively new outfit. So, Ben, can you tell us about yourself, maybe a little bit of your history and what the company's about?
Yeah, so Cold Glass Productions is a company that does two things. We're a sort of marketing services business, which we work with the BBC and BBC Sounds and create a lot of content around the big events like Glastonbury, One Big Weekend. We do all the digital content for the Radio 2 Breakfast Show, and then we help BBC Sounds and the radio networks create digital content to make their shows bigger. We also do all the digital content for the BRIT Awards, and then we create celebrity hosted IP. So we make a show called Dish, which is sort of funded by Waitrose, and is Europe's biggest branded show of its kind, I suppose.
Let's start with Dish for a moment, actually, because it's come up a few times today. Where did that idea originate? Does that originate with Waitrose, or is that an idea that was taken to Waitrose? It's interesting from a branded entertainment point of view.
Yeah, no, it actually came from Waitrose. They were already making a show, a podcast, which was doing medium to low numbers, let's say, and they came to us and said, "How can we reinvigorate it?" And so actually what we went back to them is and again, this is probably where lots of shows fail, is the fact that actually we went back to them with a 3-year business plan. And we said, if you want to build something in this industry, you compound, so you grow every week, so you have to have a long-term view of things. So we actually built them a 3-year business plan and said, within 3 years, we'll have a show at the Royal Opera House or the Royal Albert Hall, which we've just done. We just did the show at the Royal Opera House. And that we showed them how we would grow every week for 3 years, which is what we've done.
So where are you taking the business? I mean, I know you're only 6 months old as a company, but is there a direction you're heading given what's going on around you?
Yeah, I think so. If you see dishes in the kitchen, we're about to launch some new shows which are sort of covering passion verticals around the home. So actually, you can see there's one about fitness, gardening. There's loads of different verticals in the home that we can cover. Because I think what effectively we sell is companionship. And go on, sorry.
So no, I was going to say, because the big scoop today, of course, was dogs. Everyone has those, so that's
I'm telling you, dogs is where it's at. If you look at a celebrity's Instagram feed and they've got a dog, their highest performing content will always be the dog content, no matter how funny they are or anything else. If they show themselves with a dog, that's the stuff that really cuts through. And I think dog content is the next big vertical that's going to blow up.
you really shouldn't be showing that. What about cats? Cats.
I think it's bigger with dogs. I don't know what the dog audience is. I think you can control them more, but I think it's dogs over cats. That's where I'd put my money right now. And I shouldn't have told anybody because actually I'm kicking myself because that's the next business plan.
So it's a really interesting session. There's a lot of kind of discussion around what a vodcast is, and lack of clarity about whether it needs a definition or not. What's your view on where that discussion was going? What was that discussion really saying? Our inability to decide what to call this stuff.
I think the whole of the broadcast and video and audio industry is in a period of creative destruction, really, and everything's being reimagined. And I think the best way because effectively what the biggest shows, take Joe Rogan, for example, that's a huge YouTube hit as much as it's an audio one. And it's sort of meaningless, really, to sort of try to say so, which appeals to both video and audio. It's a chat show. Joe Rogan's a chat show. And I think it's much better to look at it, and we consider Dish a food show or a chat show. It's not a podcast or a sort of a video show, because it has to exist in those different places, but it's the format of the content that's most important. Or if you really want to break it down, define it by who owns it. Is it creator owned or broadcast owned? Because it's broadcast owned, it's limited into where it can go and the platforms it can be on. If it's creator owned, it can be everywhere. And I think as we go forward and the media landscape changes, it'll be about the businesses that are creator owned that are the ones that are changing everything.
Cool. A couple more questions. So obviously the real insight you made today is not just dogs; it's over 35s. Over 35s are dogs. But it's really interesting. What about over 35s? We do tend to think of YouTube as being Gen Z, but you believe there's a big audience for kind of older viewers.
Yeah, well, half of the Dish audience is over 35. All audience, YouTube is pretty old. I think YouTube is 20 years old now, is it? Or it's pretty old. So audiences have grown up with it. Their TVs are ready with it. It's got a remote. On their remotes, they've got a YouTube button. They're changing their viewing habits, and YouTube is smashing it. So, we're discounting over 35s because the traditional media industry of our age, I'm over 35, has thought about broadcast first. But now everything is changing. You can think much more about YouTube first.
So it was an interesting panel, covered a lot of ground. Were there any takeouts for you? Obviously, you're immersed in this area, so you know it very well. But did anything kind of catch you by surprise, or was a learning point for you?
I don't think so, if I'm honest. That doesn't sound very arrogant, but I actually think no, it just I think actually the longer you spend here, is it just confirms the way the industry is going, and it's changing so quickly. And this is quite an exciting conference to be at because actually every speaker that I've heard has made me feel good about the business that I'm in. And so actually, it's not surprised me, but it's just made me feel more ambitious for where we can take what we're doing and the other indies around us as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. It gives you a kind of creative confidence, doesn't it? You know, you don't think that you have to be in traditional media anymore. You think that this has its own robustness.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really exciting time. I think if you think back to how music changed and sort of cultures happen, and what you always get where in any form of culture, whether it be art or music or television or comedy, is that you get groups of people doing the similar things at the same time who work together. And I think when you look at what's happening in this industry, whether it's the Fellas or Sidemen or any of those sort of groups, there's lots of people changing stuff at the same time. And I think that's the exciting thing about this industry is that the television industry is changing beyond recognition. But there's a new group of people who are working and collaborating together and sharing what they're doing, which is changing everything. And I think that's what makes it specifically, it feels like a movement, I suppose.
Yeah, and the final thing, you and Darby both talked a bit about companionship, which I thought was really interesting because we talk a lot about fans, and companionship's a bit like fans, isn't it? But not quite the same. But it's an interesting idea because it's all about engagement between audience and creator, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think if you look at sort of three big trends that are happening in this country at the moment, more and more people are claiming to feel lonely. That's the first one. The second one is the live experience is growing everywhere, from football matches to live concerts. The BBC also say that we're living through a period of adaptation where everything is changing. And in those times, people look to do things where they can feel reassured, which is what everybody else is doing. And I think even if you look at what's happening with Traitors now, and everybody's swarming around it because it's one of those shows that brings people together, actually that's the exciting thing about what's happening now is that they want shows and ideas that bring people together. So when we talk about companionship, really, it's becoming a show that lots of people can feel like it's one of their mates, they're part of the gang. And I think that's what media is all, if you think back to EastEnders, when EastEnders was at its pomp and on 3 times a week, everybody was talking about it and you felt like an EastEnders fan or a Corrie fan. It's the same when big football events happen, you want to feel part of something. And so for us, companionship is saying, right, we'll create something that's going to give you content in different parts of your life that's going to make you feel a part of something much bigger that lots of other people are part of too. And that's where companionship really is. We're selling friendship, we're selling a gang of mates with something to belong to.
Brilliant. Benka, lovely to speak to you. Thanks for your time.
All right, thanks very much. Nice to meet you.
Cheers, pal. Yeah, thank you for that.